So last time we did Europe, you watched it far more than I thought you would, and then naturally some of you asked me to do another one. So who am I to say no? Welcome back to Europe, round 2, 10 more airports actually worth your cash. Let's go. Kicking us off is MK Studios Rome Airport, which has had a full version 2 update, complete with a native MSFS 24 build. If I'm honest, this one felt a bit like a homecoming for MK. Rome was definitely one of their earlier projects, going all the way back to P3D in, I think, 2015, so it was in a definite need of an update. Rome is Italy's busiest airport and a main hub for ITA Airways, so routes have never been an issue here. You've got wide bodies like the A350 and 787 heading off to North America and Asia, plus endless short hauls around the rest of Europe in the Phoenix A320 if that is more your thing. But where V2 really impresses me is the atmosphere around it. The land side is brilliant. There's thousands of parked cars sitting outside the terminals, trains running the line that connects the airport to the city, custom built static aircraft. There's even an active construction site modelled, which I found was a neat touch. All in all, there's just this buzz to it that I can't really describe, and the texturing, you knew I couldn't resist. 10 out of 10, legit. The ground textures across the entire airport are top tier in my opinion. There's a slight tonal variation across aprons, real weathering where aircraft sit, and none of it feels flat or repetitive like you get at some lazier sceneries. Oh, and the building textures hold up nicely too. Terminal 1 in particular has that dirt and weathering around older windows that really sell its age. Jetways have a grubby, grimy glass that you don't see modelled all that often. The only thing to bear in mind though is the modelled interiors are really limited to one main area, so don't expect a full Pyreek style walkthrough. But still, at around £18 with that gorgeous night lighting after dark, Rome V2 is a really solid opener, a confident return to an old favourite, and the easiest recommendation if you are into Italian ops. Go grab it. Next up we have Stuttgart. And before we do anything, I want to cast your mind back. If you watched the last European video I did, links in the description or it's popping up here or here, you'll remember it kicked off with Oslo, the airport I genuinely couldn't shut up about, going on and on about how alive the whole thing felt. Well, Stuttgart comes from the same hand, Joe Erlandsson, so you know that the quality is there. And spoiler, it absolutely is. This one is an MSFS exclusive, native, using the new SDK from the ground up. Jesus Christ, I hate that phrase. Anyway, the point is, it does show, and the headline feature has to be the walkaround stuff. You can legitimately stroll right through the terminal in avatar mode, in off the jetway, through the landside entrance, past animated passengers, up actual working elevators, and onto the visitor terrace with its little exhibition. It's ridiculous, it's completely not needed, but it is also brilliant, and I have lost an embarrassing amount of time just wandering around pretending that I'm catching a flight. Texturing as well is really good. There's a proper grime around stands, all custom rather than recycled props. It has a lived-in look about it, so job done on that front. You've also got a custom GSX profile built right in with accurate procedures, plus support for both Aerosoft and GSX VDGS systems if you need them. And routes are plenty: Eurowings, Condor, Sun Express, TUI, well over 100 destinations to chase. And if you're short on time, even a quick hop to Frankfurt or Munich. At around £20 this is an easy yes, but you can also pay £26 instead and grab the bundle, which throws in 6 smaller airfields scattered around the region for more GA flights. Either way, it's Joe doing what Joe does, and proof that Oslo wasn't a fluke.
Okay, next up we have Best Scenery for Microsoft Flight Simulator, and the award goes to iniBuilds Manchester.
Number 3 on our list is the one with the trophy on the shelf. But if I'm completely honest, I kinda get why it won. Manchester has needed a proper modern rendition for years, and iniBuilds built this one in collaboration with Manchester Airports Group itself, off the back of thousands of reference photos. But what sells it to me is the actual personality. This place is stuffed with little details. It has a modelled visitor park, Concord and all, with these small purple lights glowing through the windows after dark. It has an old DC-10 fuselage, a Nimrod tucked in the corner, a faded Thomas Cook logo bleeding through the paint on one of the hangars. And like they did with Big Jet TV over at Heathrow, they've added the Airliners Live spotting cabin. Huge fan, by the way. Even Robinson's Bar and Grill has a full interior with a f***ing menu that you will never once read in the cockpit. Performance though, the bit that everybody brings up when it comes to iniBuilds, I'm happy to report it is not a horror story either. It runs really well, none of that clunky GPU melting reputation that they've earned over the years. But there is a price, and yes, at around £22, this one is on the steeper side, no getting around it. But, hear me out, Manchester is the third busiest airport in the UK, pushing around 30 million passengers a year. You've got EasyJet, TUI, Ryanair, Jet2, all of them hammering out holiday routes. Plus Virgin and the long haul crowd heading off to the States. 2 parallel runways, endless traffic, and somewhere you will keep going back to, so the value is absolutely there if you fly to it. Award-winning, full of character, and finally, an airport that doesn't pick a fight with your GPU. Go get it. Number 4 takes us somewhere a lot sunnier. This is Lisium's Heraklion, sat right on the northern coast of Crete. And you might remember Lisium from their Riga airport in the last video. Well, they've only gone and done one better. Now I will say right off the bat that Lisium did send me this one for free, but even if I had paid full price for it, it would still be sitting here on this video. After spending some proper time with it, I honestly would have happily handed over the cash myself, and I think that's partly down to how Greek it feels. Yes, James, thank you for stating the obvious. And I mean that as one of the highest compliments, by the way. For example, vegetation. Lisium has made custom region-specific plants which crop up everywhere, every forgotten crack and seldom used corner of the airfield. I get that sounds like a small detail, I do, but it makes a huge difference between a standard concrete box and somewhere that feels like a sun-baked, authentic Mediterranean island. And the terminal leans into that character too. It feels old, grimy, barely fit for modern travel, which, and I mean this in the nicest possible way, is precisely what the real one is like. You get a near complete interior, static passengers dotted about, and generously, little animations tucked around everywhere. It's honestly one of the best Greek terminal interiors that I have seen across the sim. No contest. Performance is also really solid, give or take the odd stutter here and there if you go tearing around in the drone camera. And at £16 roughly, it's easily one of the cheapest airports on this list so far, which is pretty insane value for money if you ask me. But there are a few caveats. There is a known clash with Bijan's Seasons mod, which causes trees to pop up across the airfield, but Lisium is actively working on a fix as we speak. The surrounding ground imagery is a tad bland in areas as well, since there's no real photogrammetry in the area. Neither of them really ruin it, but it is important that you know that. That being said, a small developer, a small price, and an airport that completely nails the brief. This one earns its spot, free or not. Number 5 is MK Studios. Again, can you legitimately fall in love with a developer?
Oh, baby.
Anyway, this is Helsinki V2, and when MK are on form, they are as good as anyone out there, and this is them very much on form. The best thing about this airport is the glow up. If you owned V1, the sheer jumping quality to this version is genuinely night and day. It's no touch up, and it honestly shows the second that you load in. The thing that's always set MK's Helsinki apart is the interior, and V2 leans right into it. You get that clean, woody, unmistakable finished terminal with thin air departure boards glowing away and passengers milling about. You could legitimately grab a coffee upstairs and just watch the airport come to life through the glass. And the texturing is exactly why MK have the reputation that they do. The apron is worn in with rubber, oil and grime scattered about. And the buildings have that big glass frontage which catches the light beautifully, all rendered with PBR textures. But in the winter, this thing comes alive, and it's all in how the snow kind of acts in the airport itself. Rather than dumping a flat white sheet over the lot, you get this light dusting clinging to the surfaces, with the masking keeping the busy, worked areas clearer while the snow settles where it naturally would. There's also proper banks of it ploughed up around the stands and edges exactly as it would in the real airport. I know it's a small detail, but it is something that sells the airport to me as a proper Nordic winter airport. And at around £18 or less if you're upgrading, this is MK at their absolute best. Number 6 takes us to France, so beret on, and let's not dwell on the fact that I have probably spent more on virtual airports for France than actually going to trips in France. This is Digital Design's Lyon. The thing that everybody arguably remembers about Lyon is the train stations directly in front. That big Calatrava building with the white roof that splits open like a bird about to take off. Oh, it's just me. That's, awkward. It's a proper landmark, and Digital Design has done an incredible job with a nicely modelled interior and an animated tram running through it. Ground textures as well is a part that I really rate. Inside, and the terminal holds up too, with the sort of stonework and glass that you would get at a French airport. Enough animated people dotted around to keep it feeling alive. And as a focus city of Air France, with EasyJet and the usual European lot alongside, you're never short of routes, plus the summer leisure runs down to the Med. It's an older airport, I will admit. It's not a shiny MSFS 24 native airport, and the landside gets a little bit thin the further out that you wander. But for around £18, like some of the others in this video, with a centrepiece like that, it's an easy one to recommend for French flights. Vive la France and all that. Number 7 is a bit of an oddball on this list. This is Simulation's Frankfurt Hahn. But despite the name, Hahn is literally nowhere near Frankfurt. Back in the day, Ryanair leaned right into that Frankfurt name, so hard that Lufthansa dragged them to court over it. And it eventually led to some, let's call it, interesting liveries. Frankfurt Hahn has been a Ryanair base ever since, and these days it pulls double duty as a busy cargo hub as well, which is what this scenery really delivers. The cargo side is brilliant. have modelled the freight houses with proper stacks of boxes and packaging around, 747 freighters sat out the front, the whole operation. But overall it's a small, compact airport, and that kind of works in its favour. Everything sits close together, so it feels somewhat busy and a little cramped the way that a real regional airport would. There's a McDonald's modelled, a tower interior that you can actually look around. Old military bunkers from its Cold War days are still around the edges, but equally that's also one of its drawbacks. The further out you go, the rougher it can kind of get, and the surrounding details fall away pretty easily. But at around £10, with its character, cargo ramp and detail, Hahn is a bit of a steal. You wait years for a decent airport in some cities, especially in Dusseldorf, and then two came up at once. Aerosoft and MK both released versions within days of each other, which almost never happens, and simmers have been scrapping over which one to get ever since. We'll get back to that. This is the Aerosoft rendition, built native for MSFS 24 by the same pair behind Stuttgart, so it was always going to look the part. And it does, in many ways. The texturing is crisp, the glass looks great, and the place feels like it's constantly moving. You've got the animated SkyTrain monorail shuttling between the terminal and the station, trains running through, cars and baggage tugs doing the rounds on the apron. The terminal and piers have modelled interiors, and the night lighting is some of Aerosoft's best. But which one do you buy? The honest answer is you can't really go wrong with either. They're both great. If you're chasing the maximum amount of detail, especially on the land side, MK probably just edges it. But if performance matters more to you, Aerosoft is the smoother of the two. The only catch is that it's a little bit more VRAM hungry, so keep an eye on that if you're tight, although the frame rates themselves have always held up for me. But all in all, at around £15 or so, whichever way you go, this is Dusseldorf done properly. A no-brainer with either option. Number 9 on our list barely needs an introduction. If you've spent any real time in flight sim, you've already flown to Innsbruck, and you've probably, like me, ploughed it into the side of a mountain trying to. Innsbruck is tucked down in the Austrian Alps and is home to one of the most famous approaches in the world, a proper Cat C airport, which means real pilots need special training to land here. You thread down the valley with the Nordketter range hard on one side and the Pagerkorfell on the other, and the wind's doing its absolute level best to ruin your day. It is, simply put, one of the best arrivals in the sim, full stop. And iniBuilds have nailed the bits that matter here as well. A modelled control tower, and the terminals is one of the best out there. Almost every single room is modelled, with bars and restaurants stocked right down to the bottles on the shelves. Departure boards you can actually read. They've even done the Berkeyzel ski jump on the hill with animated skiers flinging themselves off the end of the ramp purely because they could. Okay, not bad. The only main drawback is that the city itself isn't quite as detailed as the old Orbix version, and a few of the landmarks deserved a little bit more attention. But if we're being honest, you're here for the airport and the approach, not sightseeing around the suburbs. And for that approach alone, I think it's worth it. Just mind the mountains on your way in. 10th Airport, and of course, it's MK Studios. In particular, their 2024 update, up in the north of Portugal, with those lovely approaches along the Atlantic coast, and it's just MK showing off. The biggest standout for me is what they've done with the approach itself. Most developers let the Sims photogrammetry do everything past the fence, and on short final, that tends to make things look a little flat and a bit melted. MK, however, went the other way. They've dropped proper 3D models wherever the photogrammetry falls short, so as you come down over the threshold, almost nothing looks flat. The rest is everything you would want from MK by now. A gorgeous terminal, the usual spread of animated ground service equipment and ground clutter, the whole airfield terraformed so it sits properly within the sim world. It feels like a busy working airport, and being native to 2024, the night lighting is chef's kiss. But just know that there's a small cluster of default Asobo buildings near the northeast corner that look a little bit awkward, and they're the first thing that you'll cop an eyeful of if you roll out long. But if I'm being honest, that's me nitpicking. And that's the third MK airport that I've talked you into buying this video. The fan account stays open. If you've enjoyed this, you know the drill. Give it a like and subscribe if you haven't already, and tell me in the comments some of the airports that I have criminally left off. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.